Hello and welcome to this edition of Exotic Gardening UK Yorkshire Kris Weekly. And in this week's episode we'll be looking at the effects of the coldest winter ever for my garden and what effect it's had on all the plants. So I'm doing this video a week after the end of the very cold period we've had in the garden, and it's actually been one of the coldest winters on record here. I've only been gardening in this place for 8 years now, and of those 8 years we've had some very cold blasts in that time. We've been down to -5, we've had the beast from the east in 2018, but this winter here has been the most sustained cold period we've had. So December was pretty cold, January was the coldest January on record in the UK as a whole, as average temperature, and it was very cold here. And February, for the first 2 weeks, have been very cold as well, although now, thankfully, it's turned mild. So just to give you some temperatures, we've had here many days, a full week in fact, where it didn't get above 2 degrees, and it was averaging around freezing to 1 degrees. We've had temperatures low as -7.1, -7, on one thermometer. On the other thermometer it was showing about -6 at those times, so it's definitely been at least -6 in the garden. And we've had that 3 or 4 times, we've had -4s at least 5 times. So we've had lots and lots of cold, lots and lots of cold nights, and it's meant the borderline plants that I knew are living on borrowed time have been affected. So in this episode we're going to go around the garden, look at all those plants which might be affected by cold and see what damage we can see already. And also note that we might see damage further down the line when it really heats up and things start growing or, unfortunately, rotting. We'll talk about that later. So I'll show you some of the hardy plants as well, how they're doing, but it might be a good video this for you if you're growing sort of tender plants and you live in a more mild part of the country. You can see, well, you probably get away with either more tender plants, or if you live in a place like me, we've had these sort of temperatures, you can see what you can get away with and grow more different exotic plants. Right, so let's have a look around the garden. So we'll start this walkthrough at the back of the garden for a change, and in the far corner we have the tallest flowering tree in the world, which is Eucalyptus regnans, and that should be hardy down to about -8 or so. And if we just zoom in, we can see the leaves are totally undamaged by this winter, and it's standing nice and tall, no issues there. And obviously the bamboos are fine below it as well, because they're very hardy. And we move across and we've got some tree ferns, and they look pretty good. So they're still very green on the whole, and that is mainly because they're protected by the eucalyptus tree and that laurel over there, so they don't get radiation frost, and they protect each other as well. So we've got some really nice, I mean that's a totally healthy leaf. That's not been protected whatsoever by me, just by nature. Still got the straw in the crowns to protect the newly emerging leaves. But we've got some that have been hit by frost. You can see the difference there, and actually probably be by drying out and not actually getting enough water in them into the leaves, so they've been a bit frazzled as well. So it's a mixed picture, but overall I'm very pleased with these because they're nice and green overall. I could just tidy these up in spring, won't do it quite yet, and these will have 2 lots of nice green leaves, the new ones that come out this year and the previous ones that have survived this winter. If we look here, we've got the Princeps hybrid palms. That's one's extremely blue when you have the right light on it, and these are spear pulled in the past, but hopefully that won't happen to these. There's several in here. We'll find out as the weather heats up. Also down here we've got something interesting happening with a polycarpa, which is not good. and it's got this weird brownish on the leaves, and I can't see this being frost damage because it's protected, so whether it's a fungal infection I'm not certain, but not every leaf is like that. We've got a shoot down there which is totally fine, and the other polycarpers in the garden are fine, and the fatsia next to it is totally okay as well. Beautiful variegated one there. Camadoria palms, they're nice and green, no protection to those. That's radicalis there, looking really good. Cast iron plant is fine as well, apart from the slugs have had a go at it. Under here we have a Cyathea, we'll see how that gets on, Cooperi. That got protected by tyres and straw, I've just shown you that there. So let's go and have a look through the garden. So I've been clearing out a lot of stuff here this weekend, so cut down some of the miscanthus grasses and cleared a lot of bamboo out of here, so I'm going to really open up this area. You can see the bamboo's been hit over by all that snow. We had loads of snow, we've had 6 snowfall events this winter, and it's sort of getting in the way of my Tetrapanax rex. To see that big stalk in the middle, which is totally hardy, and that's totally fine, nice and firm. Over here, big Bootia odorata, and on the face of it, it looks totally fine. I'll just pan round, let's see if we can get to the centre. You can see the spear in there is nice and firm, so that's good at the moment. Just look back down that way, Trachycarpus as well, so they're all fine. And then we'll move round to some sad looking Musabaju. So if you grow Musabaju, you can protect these if you wish. If you've got new plants, so you want to definitely maintain the height. I've gambled, so these, like I said, seem down to at least -6, and there's several ice days and a full week of no higher than -1, -2. I'll just chop the top of this one off just to show you. It's still alive, look, it's nice and green that. So that, if you just sort of tap it like that, if it doesn't fall over, it's not rotted, it's fine and it'll carry on. So these been unprotected, look awful at the moment, but a few weeks of warmth, I'll cut all the tatty bits off and these will look good as new. Leave all this stuff on for now just to give it a bit of protection if it does turn cold again. So here, I need to take this off, but I decided to wrap the trunk of my Trachycarpus aureophilus, and as you can see, I didn't really need to. The leaves are completely undamaged. Beautiful, very rare palm. So I'll just take that off as well soon because we don't want to get humidity and rot in there, so I'll take that off, but I just left that in just to show you for now. Obviously cordylines are fine, bamboos are fine, but Melianthus looks very sorry for itself. But the good news is I can cut all this down in spring and it will shoot from the base from down there. There we have my Cycas revoluta, just showing you that. That is still completely perfectly green, or at least as green as it was before the start of winter. All that fleece being around it and fleece in the top, but you can see that's totally fine. So you can grow these in the ground as long as it's free draining. Chimerops cerifera, nice and blue, kept its colour. Obviously all the gingers and stuff need tidying up in spring. And then all my colocasia pink chinas are under all this, well, it's meant to be hay, but I've got some straw mixed in as well. All this mulch here, that will protect the ground from the penetrating frosts. So that'll be removed in a couple of months time. Nice big cordyline there, that's growing well. And more bamboos, so they've not been affected. Now I'll come across to the middle bed. I've got the Chimerops vulcano, didn't protect that at all, and as you can see, it's nice and green, really firm in there, so no issues there. Bria amata, people have been asking about this. This got a fleece and a tarpaulin draped over the top of it. It looks good at the moment. Again, this can show delayed spear pull, so we'll see how that goes on over the next few months. But at the moment, it's looking good. No instant damage to the leaves at the temperatures it's received. Ristratus fine there. and linearis, Yucca linearis, which is probably my favourite yucca at the moment. Absolutely stunning blue colour, very fine leaflets or leaves, and not protected at all, no cover over that, and it's in pristine condition, so I'm not worried about that. Under here we have the agaves. Americana is probably going to be okay, the centre's totally fine, but as expected at the temperatures we had, the outer leaves showing signs of damage, and they'll be removed in spring. But overall I think that's going to be okay. Montana's completely unblemished, perfect there, so we've got a small one there and a much bigger one over there. But we do have damage here to this little agave. I think, actually I'm not certain what this one is, but it was on the edge, it wasn't really under the cover. You can see the cover up here, it's not really under the cover, and this one is going to die. See all the split leaves are rot, and if I just touch the centre you can see that one's perished. If it was much bigger it probably had a better chance, like the ones in here. Or the Lefantha, got a Lefantha around here which is not normally planted out, and that's completely unblemished as well, so that's a good agave to try out. So it's agave Lefantha, really nice, very different, got red margins on the teeth as well. Here we have Distillerion. This is the Glaucophyllum form. It's always grown really twisted like this. Could be wheelie eye, and that's completely hardy, no protection on that. Chemops is getting bigger and bigger, and that's totally fine. And Faxonia, that I think is going to be fine. It's looking nice and healthy at the top. Obviously lower leaves are dying off at the bottom. That in time should be huge and grow really tall and branch. Princeps palms, if you remember, I'm going to be moving these Princeps palms to give me more space. Beautiful bluish leaves there, not protected. They're fine down to at least -10. And then I'll just stand back and show you the Jabea chilensis. Now this has been squashed by all the snow. It was so heavy, the snow. All the leaves sort of widened out and flattened down a bit, so it's harder for me to walk past it, to be honest, at the moment. But that's not shown any sign of damage, no spotting or discoloration. And if we have a quick look round into the centre, we can see there's about 3 or 4 leaves ready to emerge in spring. We've got Euphorbia melianthus. That looked awful when it was frozen, but it's perked up now, it's defrosted, so that's fine. And if we go down again, all the bedding under here, all the colocasias are all covered over. So it doesn't look good in winter, as you can see, but it protects the plants without me having to dig them up and store them somewhere else. Estelia Red Devil. That's not meant to be super hardy, but so far it's so good. -6, -7, no issue, and been freezing for a week, no issue at all on that plant. My messy bed over here, but I've just cut down the Rhododendron here, ready for it to reshoot in spring. And this is Trachycarpus uchrolensis that I've transplanted last year, and it looks fine. It should be hardy to -9, -10 or lower. Huge leaves on this when it gets going. That's fine. More Princeps hybrids. So this is another polycarp I was talking about, like the one at the far end of the garden. And this is completely unblemished, exactly the same type. And this is in a more exposed position, there's no overhead cover. So it's not cold damage, it's damage the other one. So that's looking fine. And around the pond, got the grasses and palm trees and bamboos. Over here we have a Butia catariensis, and that is looking totally fine. Really solid spear on that. Oh, just pull it apart a bit, but that's a solid one. So that's doing okay. Passion flower, I'll cut this back, it's pretty much wilted now with the cold. And if we walk over the bridge, just turn to my left as we do. Obviously got the yucca there and the princeps palms either side, and they're totally fine. Some little plants I never talk about under all this mess. Let's see if you can see them. We've got a little Opuntia cacti there. That's not protected, it's covered in leaf litter at the moment, and that's proving very hardy. And there's a tiny little cacti under there that you can't even see, and that's doing okay as well, a little barrel cacti. Hercules, Santidicia Hercules, looking like a mushy mess, but that'll pop up in spring. Same with the regular Santidicias. And if we just go down here, the jungle hut where I store my fleece, and this interesting device, which we'll talk about in a different video, which we'll be using to dig up bamboos and things like that. So let's look in the main part of the garden. Scheffler here, totally fine. Again, looks awful when it's frozen, and this is shooting from the base as well. So we've got lots of little ones coming up, which we could take cuttings from. Here, I left out this onset banana here, Morellii. So obviously it's going to die in this location with the temperatures I've had, but that is to show you what it would look like if you left it out. And I've actually over here cut one up, and it actually looks alive because I left another one out here, but you can see I just cut it up yesterday and it looks pretty firm, but I'm sure when it warms up that would rot away. Obviously this one's dead now, but I mean the other one will as well. Let's just go back. So if we go back here, you can see the Allostriatulas are totally fine there as well. I've got hundreds of those now as cuttings just put into the ground. I'll be selling those at the open days. And we've got here a mule palm, which has always not done well in winters, and surprisingly it's not frazzled because it wasn't protected at all. Did not wrap this up in any way whatsoever. And yes, we do have damage. We've got scorch marks on the leaves, and this leaf in particular is looking pretty bad, but the centre's firm and it's looking okay. Now if this was a bigger, more established plant, it'd have a lot more leaves, and it'd only be the outside leaves probably that were damaged, and it would quickly recover. Because this has only got effectively 3 leaves, 4 leaves, then it's going to take a while to look good again in spring and summer. But I'm surprised it's actually still alive, to be honest, so that's good. Here we have the other Scheffler. This is Macrophylla, which most people say is very tender, and this has been completely squashed by all the bamboos and snow. All this fell over and weighed down here for days, and it's you know, it's had -6 several times now. And the leaves actually, although they're a bit squashed over this way, they've not been damaged in the slightest. And the growth point, you can just see 2 leaves just emerging there. They look okay, so I'm quite hopeful this will be fine. What I did for that, just for the last week of the very cold weather, I wrapped this around the trunk. I've left that on just to show you what that looks like. So it's been completely unprotected all winter until that last week where I thought we could get silly temperatures down to -8 or lower. Thankfully we didn't get quite that cold. So that's looking okay. And a stunning plant. Loquat tree, totally unfazed. Underneath that we have a Trachycarpus latisectus. We have 2 good leaves, and the rest have been damaged by the snow, and this had a fleece bag over it, so it has frozen, so you do see the damage on the leaves there. It's not a fully hardy palm tree, but that will recover quite well. Obviously got the Gunnera under there, and we've got a Torbay cordyline, Torbay palm or dazzler, and that, yeah, it's not brilliant, but it's not, still firmish. I think that's probably going to be okay. That's borderline really. Hey, another Scheffler over there looking totally fine, and obviously the bamboo is totally fine up there as well. In fact, let's just go here. Tree fern, this one's a bit more scorched, but that one looks okay. Fatsia's over there. they're fine. Again, we've got this weird fungal thing or damage on this Morseri Fatsia japonica. So I'm not sure what's going on with that, but the anlease by the side of it is totally unaffected. We've also got these tree ferns, which you can see, got the straw in the centre, but they've been really damaged. I'll be removing all the leaves off these. That one, not as damaged as all the rest underneath it, surprisingly. So these will be cut back in spring, and then the new leaves will emerge from the centre. We do have one right in the back that I can't really get to, and that's completely untouched by the cold because it's protected by the wall and the palms around it. There's another polycarpa, the different form types. And that's growing right up there, really tall and bushy. That's growing well and flowered, and that's totally fine. What haven't I shown you? We haven't looked at all the trachycarpuses, have we? So let's start over here, get over this bed, past a dodgy looking one. Nanus down there, totally unaffected by the frost and cold and snow. That's a hardy trachycarpus, but extremely slow growing. Then we've got the damage. Look at that one. That's again another Latisectus in a more exposed position. The centre's fine, and the centre leaves pretty good, but everything else looks a bit rubbish. Thankfully it's quite quick growing, so it'll regrow those leaves. So this is the damage you get when you get below -5 or sustained cold on Latisectus. And it doesn't happen every year, so it doesn't look bad every spring like this, but also in a cold winter you get this happening. And then the rest of them are pretty much fine, so that's just a Fortunae. The Gemini sectus down there, totally unfazed by the cold, surprisingly, because I think it comes from Vietnam, so I expect it to be cold hardy. Another Princeps is fine. Nanitals, Princeps hybrid there, looking good. Just got to watch where I'm walking now. Yeah, that's fine. Real Tequila looking fine. And then we come to the tenderest one of all, which is Martianus. And as you can see, you've got the centre 2 leaves and spear, fine, but the other leaves have scorched. And this is a wobbly one, so you can see, try to stabilise it, but it's not quite got there now. And the waggy as well. So overall, these are doing remarkably well considering the cold we've had, so very pleased with the Trachycarpus palms here. Right, what else? Obviously all these leaves, it looks like rubbish, but they're protecting plants. Under these palm leaves we have the Mesia zygomeris. We have canna over there under those leaves. We have gingers under this mulch here as well. Now we do have a booty here with damage. This is another Catinarensis, which we've shown you one by the pond. This one there, look at that, that is not good. In the centre, we've got proper dead leaves and a bit of spear, pretty much spear pull on the centre there. Now this has been damaged obviously by the cold, but I'm pretty certain there's other things causing that damage, and I'll talk about that in a different video rather than go on at length about it now. But that palm won't die, it just looks a bit rubbish for a little while on the inside, but the outer leaves are totally fine, so that'll be okay. Blue bamboo there, another blue bamboo here, Berinda 1046, and we can see really nice blue stems on there, gorgeous plant. The leaves normally look a bit battered at this time of year, but they're holding quite well because we've not had the icy cold winds on them, so they've been okay. And then if we go around, I've got my new beds here that I'll talk about in a different video, which I've just made. I've got the steps here that I've just done, we'll talk about this area in a future video. Got a Nova there looking good. Gemini sectus, unprotected, and that is looking stunning really. Nice and green, firm leaves. So a surprisingly hardy Trachycarpus palm, tested for the first time really this winter. and a Bootia Aerospatha looking good. And even my Crassulaefolia, the Pseudopanax here, the Ferox and the Crassulaefolia looking good up there. So the back garden pretty much has got away unscathed apart from a couple of tenderish plants, but they will bounce back. Let's have a quick look at the front garden. Oh, I forgot to mention the pitcher plants are looking fine as well. I mean, they look a bit desiccated, but they'll grow back in spring. I'm still looking reasonably good at the moment there. And even more tender ones with the Venus flytraps in, they're okay as well. So they've been out all winter, apart from this one came in for 5 days when I was going to expect those extremely cold nights, but they've both been seen -4, -5 and -6. They've both been completely frozen solid for days and days at times. Even when the temperatures rose to 4, 5, 6 degrees, these were still frozen solid for quite a while. So in the front garden now you can see the Rhapidophylla hystrix looking totally unscathed. It's a very hardy palm, just very slow growing, so that's good. Drubea wasn't protected at all, and that's totally fine. Behind that we've got the Canary Island date palm, and that was protected again just for that last week, so that's seen -5 and -6, and that looks completely green and completely untouched by the cold, which is great to see. The waggies are fine here, and then the great big Eucharistratas, which are huge. Again, nothing in the front garden is protected other than that Canary Island date palm for 1 week. Everything's looking totally unfazed by the cold, which is great to see. Apart from Musopajus, obviously, they've been, the leaves have obviously gone in winter, but they're completely firm, the stems. But my Aeoniums, obviously the ones I left out, completely gone to mush, which is expected. So even in the front garden, all the plants, don't need to protect them, and they've come through -6, -7, loads and loads of snow and loads of ice. So very pleased with that outcome so far. Thank you for watching this edition of Exotic Gardening UK Yorkshire Kris Weekly. Join me next time, we'll be doing more in the garden.